Tonight, Jerry Sandusky is innocent. That's what this man, who reviewed all the evidence, claims. He's here exclusively, says Dottie Sandusky is right. Her husband is not a pedophile.
For all you people slaying her, she wasn't convicted of anything, except maybe marrying a bad guy.
Jerry Sandusky was convicted on 45 counts of child sexual assault. His wife says he's innocent, and she is not the only one who says that. She told NBC about what her husband told her from prison. Take a look.
He said a friend had written to him and asked him what he missed. What did he take most for granted? And he said, sorry, family meals, the fun time with the grandkids, playing ball, doing special things with friends.
And I think it might be easy to say for Jerry Sandusky, if he continued to shower with boys after admitting it was wrong and saying, I wish I were dead. Why? Because he's sick and he's a pedophile.
Jerry would not say, I wish I was dead.
Joining us, defense attorney Anahita Sadagatvar, clinical psychologist Judy Ho, and here exclusively is that journalist you saw sitting there next to Dottie, documentary filmmaker and journalist John Ziegler. John, you spent 2 years investigating the case against Sandusky. What'd you find?
Well, Dr. Drew, first of all, it's important to point out this is not a commercial endeavor I'm involved with. This is a search for the truth. I started this 2 years ago because I was extremely skeptical of this media narrative that Joe Paterno somehow was part of a cover-up for Jerry Sandusky. It was very obvious to me very early on that that narrative is balderdash. It's obviously ridiculous and has been proven to be ridiculous, although the mainstream news media has not accepted that reality as of yet. As I got deeper and deeper in, as I interviewed Jerry Sandusky not once but twice from prison, as I got to know his wife exceedingly well, as I spoke to his family members, as I spoke to jurors, as I spoke to all sorts of people surrounding this case, including friends of the victims and the accusers, something just said to me, this is not right. This is not adding up. The math at the beginning of this case simply does not add up. There's no consciousness of guilt on Dottie Sandusky's part and no consciousness of guilt on Jerry Sandusky's part. And the evidence is far, far weaker than anybody in the media is willing to admit or is probably even aware of, because the media bought in 2 days after this story broke that he was guilty. Penn State fires a legend. A nuclear explosion occurs. 2 days after that, Penn State holds a candlelight vigil for the accusers, and they're sanctified as victims. Right. And then they open up the vault, and everything is history.
Go ahead, Anahita.
Okay, I understand. I agree with you that we shouldn't jump to conclusions right when a story breaks. But this case went to trial. There were witnesses. There was evidence presented. So my question to you is, since you've studied this trial for 2 years, are you not familiar with that wiretap where the police actually were able to record Sandusky's conversation with the mother of one of these boys, where he says, yes, I took a shower with him, and he never once denied touching that boy inappropriately, and he's apologizing, saying, I'm so sorry, I want to die? I mean, have you seen that?
Have you heard the tape of that? Have you heard the tape of that?
Yes, I have heard the tape of that.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Because there isn't a tape.
Actually, it was online. It was actually online. I read the transcript of the tape today.
No, that's
so is your
transcript.
representation that the police put out an inaccurate transcript?
Well,
is it
actually,
your
I'm
position
not quite sure I'm not quite sure I understand the relevance. I'm not sure I really understand the relevance of the statement to begin with, because frankly, even if it was said, and Jerry denies it and Dottie says it doesn't sound like him, the police were there. They decided not to charge him in that case because there was no sexual contact, and it was found to be unfounded. He had a 13-year relationship with that boy after the fact.
That is such a gross misstatement.
How much would you like to bet on that?
With all due respect,
13-year relationship with that boy after that event.
If
13
you would stop
years.
Screaming,
you know
I would
nothing
like
about
to
this
respond.
case.
Actually, you don't know me. Actually, you don't know me, and I've studied the case as well. But
go ahead. I need to go.
No, I was going to say I read the transcript of the tape of the recording, and I guess my question to you would be, in light of that, I guess now you're saying that you believe that the authorities, the government, actually misled the public and has misled the family of all the victims by releasing a fraudulent transcript of a taped conversation that never took place.
Well, no, I'm explaining to you that there's not a tape. I'm saying that even if I'm not sure I understand the relevance of this, because the police were there and determined properly, as determined by the testimony of this boy 13 years later, after a long relationship with Sandusky, that
Judy,
nothing happened.
Misrepresentation.
Got it. Judy.
Okay. Hi, John. Hi, John. Hi, John. It's Judy. Okay, so I have two questions for you. The first one is, you were mentioning that there's no consciousness of guilt on Jerry or his wife's part. Does it mean that they have to feel guilty if they committed something? There's a whole subset of human beings that sometimes we call psychopaths that don't feel guilt at all. And my second question to you is, there is such a thing called researcher bias. You know, when we want something to be true, we look at the evidence and we basically look at the ones that confirm our hypothesis and our ideas first. And I know you started off this interview by saying, I actually came at it from the other side, and the more time I spent, the more I realized it wasn't true. But you know, the more time we spend getting to know an individual, the more we sympathize with them as well.
Okay,
Go ahead,
let me
John.
address that. First of all, I can assure you that Jerry and Dottie do not fit into that first category that your guest just hypothesized about. But more importantly, could you please explain what my agenda here is? Do you think I wanted to come to the conclusion that Jerry Sandusky might be innocent? I do not believe he had sex with boys. I don't know whether you could call that quote-unquote innocent.
And John,
but the
John,
reality is I have nothing to gain here and everything to lose. I did not want to come to this conclusion. The facts
That's my question, John. At the end of the interview, Matt Lauer made the comment that this could be a sort of a career-ending conclusion to come forward with. Has it been for you?
Oh, it's horrendous. This has been horrific on my life. I spent 2+ years on this case with no money, no hope of money, simply because I knew the truth of this case had been lost, and I was the only person who was in a position to find it. And I have come to the conclusion that the narrative that we were told 2 days after this story started is not just false, it is likely totally false, and that's why there was no cover-up at Penn State. That's why Joe Paterno was not guilty.
Anahita, leave it. We got how you feel. John, thank you for coming forward with your opinion. We appreciate it. And we're going to have to leave this story and go on to what we have next, because we had a huge response to this story.